Hey everybody, thank you for coming. Thank you for showing up on this beautiful morning at a really fun, it's been an amazing week at Messari Mainnet. So many of the people that I've gotten to meet so far have been pretty incredible in building some really cool things, and that's really what this is all about. Talking to builders and getting builders to meet each other and trying to build a better future. So I wanted to kick things off. I'm Alex Rawitz, I'm one of the co-founders of DIMO. We've got a bunch of folks from the DIMO team around here. Hopefully you get a chance to meet some of them. Most importantly, I want to thank actually a bunch of the sponsors who made this event possible with us. We've got Lattice, who's here, Mike, thank you very much. We've got a few folks from GSR as well. I saw Justin and Alex, thank you very much for participating in that. We've got Helium as well, Scott, Brandon, and last but not least, we've got JDI. I don't know if a JDI person made it out here, but they are a great hardware partner and a huge supporter of DePIN and crypto projects, so they're a really fantastic company. We've got some great talks and some really incredible people that you're going to be hearing from today. We're going to keep the content pretty short, and it's mostly about mingling and getting to know other people. We hope that you guys really enjoy what you hear today and get to engage with a lot of the people who are building really cool things. So to kick things off, we're going to have an amazing panel hosted, moderated by Julie from CoinFund. We've got Andy from Eco, Raj from Portal, and Fern from DraftKings. So really excited to get things started, and hopefully you guys enjoy the conversation here today.
All right, hey everybody. Okay, so to kind of set the table in what we're talking about today, I wanted to share some positioning that we often share at CoinFund with our portfolio companies, which is that Web3 marketing is not really marketing, it's more like a movement. And so let's think about that for a second. It is really, really hard to bring your company to market in any condition, whether it's Web 2 or Web 3. But in this case, think about all the people that you have to bring with you. We're talking about getting everybody to speak the same language, getting everyone to adopt the same standards, getting regulators to understand what you're trying to do, getting your employees to come on board, and finding people that are actually qualified to work on the product that you're working on. And so it is insanely challenging to bring all of these messages together and then ride out the crazy ride that could be the next vision of 10 or 15 years ahead of time, like building the future of the new internet. And so what we want to talk about today is the divide between these really early adopters. Crypto has done a great job of getting on the radar of developers and early consumers who are excited about the promise of these new services. But we haven't done a great job of bringing in consumers and meeting them where they are. So how do we learn from Web 2? What did we just learn in the last 10 or 15 years in the mobile internet and some of the standards that were set, where the expectation now is you have hundreds of millions of active users in every language in every country around the world. So I guess our question really is like, what makes a consumer product great? So to get started, we want to introduce our panel. My name is Jules. I oversee marketing and our go-to-market advisory at CoinFund. CoinFund is one of the world's first crypto-native investment firms, and we have a pretty large portfolio, running around mainnet this week and working on a lot of really exciting things in blockchain. I'll kick it over to you, and then if you guys can just explain what you're doing right now in your company and what you were doing in your previous life before crypto, that would be great.
Cool. Hey everyone, my name is Andy Bromberg. I'm the CEO of Beam and a contributor to the Eco protocol. Beam is the easiest way to pay anyone, anywhere in the world instantly. It's a really cool account abstraction wallet, very specific wallet built for payments that we just launched a couple months ago, and it's grown really well. So really cool tech there, and then contributing to the Eco protocol, which is an attempt to build an entirely new money, an actually new currency with independent monetary policy, kind of an alternative to stable coins. Before Eco and Beam, I was working on CoinList. I co-founded CoinList in 2017 and built that for 3 years, and before that built a consumer product in the media space.
Cool. Hey, how's it going? I'm Raj Parekh, CEO and founder at Portal. Portal is an embedded infrastructure company and protocol for enabling large enterprises, exchanges, fintechs to access Web3 applications and protocols. Before that, I was one of the founders at Visa Crypto. I was leading crypto products at Visa for about 3 years or so. Before that, my background's security and payments. Naturally went down the crypto rabbit hole, just in the intersection of two worlds.
Nice. Fern Murius, work at DraftKings. I'm the product lead on our Rainmakers product, which is an NFT-based fantasy sports product. We have deals with the NFL, PGA, and UFC for exclusive NFT-based fantasy contests. We're in our second year of that product now. And before DraftKings, I was a co-founder of a fantasy sports company called FanVest.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. So I want to start with Andy. Broad question, what makes a consumer service great, and why haven't we gotten there yet? I mean, it can't just be the technology, right?
Yeah, I think it's a few things. A couple things make consumer services great for me. One is it has to be really specifically purpose-built often at the beginning. I think that's one of the biggest things we haven't done in crypto so far. It feels in a lot of ways like everyone is building internet browsers and no one's building websites. And so, yeah, you can go and build a bunch of these generalized products that do all sorts of things, can enable all sorts of interactions. That's great, it's necessary. But if people aren't actually building the website or the product that people want to use, then that's a problem. I think the other thing great products do is they kind of fade away into the background and they aren't the focus of what you're using. So, I always think of Teslas as an example. Like when you get in a Tesla car for the first time, you get in the driver's seat and the car is just on and you can just hit the gas and you don't need to do anything. That's an amazing product experience. You're like, whoa, I can just press this and I'm good to go. And a lot of crypto products require you to be thinking about the product that you're using. Like the point of it is this intellectual, oh, I'm using this product to trade, I'm using this product to do X. I think it's hard to build really great consumer experiences when the product is the focus rather than the kind of resulting experience. And I do think that some of that is as a result of the tech missing to enable that kind of seamless fade into the background experience. I think it's gotten a lot better this year with account abstraction, other piece of technology that have come out, and obviously roll-ups and alternative L1s, making things faster and cheaper, but there's still a long way to go to let products both fade into the background and accomplish a really narrow purpose that people can get attracted to and share with other people.
What do you guys think? Where's the divide?
I think I'll just even add, I agree with all that, what Andy said. I think the other thing I would add is that right now the developer experience is also just as hard. I was just joking earlier today, but there's like all these different translations, there's like sign type data v4, there's like a migration, there's all these different things that are taking place in the developer ecosystem. And when you're constantly changing things on developers, it's hard to force a developer to make the consumer experience also good. And so I think like the standardization and just like how we do development in Web3 is also just as difficult. And I think if we continue to make that better, it'll continue to enhance the consumer experience around it also.
So I guess building on that, how do we communicate to consumers that they might have to wait or that the experience may not be great while we get the developers together to start building great products?
I think there's no excuse. At the end of the day, like we have, I think it's our job and responsibility to do both. We have to continue to get better at the developer experience. We have to continue to get better at the consumer experience. So I don't think we have any excuses. And honestly, like Andy said, there's like the infrastructure and technology is here today. You have account abstraction, you have rollups, you have new things that are coming up. We didn't have any of this like 3-4 years ago. And so before it was very much a pipe dream, but like the building blocks are here today. So I think we have less excuses than we did before, for sure.
So Fern, you were telling me a story about being in fantasy sports, then starting to bring in like the NFT experience to consumers and realizing that maybe you didn't introduce it to them in exactly the right way when you guys were working through your marketing strategy. Can you kind of explain the lesson that was learned there?
Yeah, sure. So, in the first year of Rainmakers, which was the first, blockchain-based product that DraftKings brought to market, we spent a lot of time trying to educate users on what NFTs were, how different editions worked and the value of those types of things. But I think what we really learned is taking the NFT technology aside, what does it bring you as a game builder? And NFTs, or ownership of digital assets, allow you to build a market around games. So outside of just playing the game itself, now you can play this secondary market trading game where you're speculating on prices and trading with other users. As a platform, we can start to reward users by airdropping them assets and reinforcing the value of the assets in our ecosystem. So as we've evolved, it's been less about focusing on the crypto and teaching users about what NFTs are and teaching them how to play this new game, which is really shop and play and not just play on its own.
So with all things being equal, would you say learning through doing is different or better than learning through reading articles or education that the consumer might experience as they're registering for the first time?
Definitely. If we could turn back time, there are a few things we would do differently for our first year. But I think getting users to play the game is really the best way to teach them about a product. So it's not teaching them about the technology of crypto or how to use NFTs, things like that. It's focusing on the user experience of your game or your product specifically, and teaching them how to use your product and unlock the value of your product.
To Fern's point, just one thing I would add to that. I don't know if everyone saw, but Matt Huang from Paradigm published a great article this week about kind of analogizing crypto to settling a new planet. And he talks about how there's value in speculation. Like the gold rush drew people to California, they came there and then they built things there. And I think one really interesting thing that Fern touched on there is that there is a divide between two different types of consumer use cases in crypto. There are speculative consumer use cases in crypto. That is a legitimate and viable set of use cases. And then there's a separate set of use cases which are, the long-awaited, non-speculative, pure utility. People are just using this thing for some very specific consumer or social or otherwise purpose. And I think a lot of the danger comes when those two things get conflated. When you're saying, what we're looking for is this pure consumer use case, but we're going to introduce elements of speculation into it. Speculation's fine, you can do that, but it often kind of muddies the waters on those things. And I think it ends up getting painted with a very broad brush in the space that everything's a consumer use case, but really those are two very different things with different sets of ways you would build a product or think about the user base or all of that. And so I think drawing that distinction's really important.
One thing I'll just quickly add to the second persona that Andy mentioned is that I think today we use our Visa card every single day, but we have no idea how it works. I happen to know a lot about it because I spent a ton of time at the network, but none of us know how it works, but we use it every single day. Same with Apple Pay. I think the same thing's gonna apply to that second persona also, where we're all technologists here. We love blockchains, we love crypto, we love protocols. We're gonna learn the ins and outs and how it works. We can't have that same expectation for users also. They wanna have and accrue as much value as possible in that experience. And if we continue to provide massive value, I think that's how people naturally start to adopt some of these technologies also. We can't push blockchains and crypto onto the user. We have to kind of meet them where they are. And then from there, solve pain points that they're having on an everyday basis. And if we're able to do that, I think crypto will seamlessly start to evolve into the day-to-day operations for a user also.
Do you think there's certain types of products that will lend itself to being more naturally crypto friendly or get somebody skeptical or uncomfortable to try it out for the first time? For example, DIMO, great example, plug it into your car, I can see what it's doing, I want to get closer to an experience I'm already having every day. Can you think of other categories that might be more likely to be a good fit for somebody's first time using crypto?
I can say, I think everyone talks about product market fit, but if you actually think about that phrase, you're talking about the fit between a product and its market. And it's really hard to talk about products that are going to work and resonate with people without also considering the market that they are serving, right? Just saying, hey, this is a really great product without talking about the market doesn't make a lot of sense. And so, in certain places around the world, rule of law is weaker, property rights are much weaker. Maybe there's certain use cases there where products where you have provable ownership of something, whether that's a username or your money or anything like that. There's amazing product market fit there. I'm not super worried living in the United States that money is going to get repossessed out of my bank account suddenly without my consent. And so maybe the strength of the kind of property rights pitch there is weaker for consumers. And so I think there's tons of use cases all over the world, but the question is kind of what market are you serving in addition to what is that product that you're building?
One thing I'll just add to that is that what drew me to blockchains initially, back almost 8 years ago now, back when I was at Visa, was there was these two parallel networks. You have blockchains that are then moving a bunch of money across the world, open source, permissionless, and then you have Visa, which is this big centralized network that was high throughput, and everyone has this arms race that Visa's faster than blockchains. And I think to your question, payments was the first thing that drew me, is that there's a lot of markets that Visa just has no access to, parts of the world, but blockchains actually have the ability to penetrate those markets pretty quickly. Even when it came to certain new evolutions of payments like e-commerce, it actually took Visa a while to figure out, oh wait, we can actually get the 16-digit PIN on the card and have it typed on the internet. And then until Stripe came to really package it, it was really difficult also. So I think we're seeing the early glimpses of payments really proliferating. Beam is I think a great example of that too. But I think in terms of like product market fit and just like a clear use case, I think payments is like a very big one that has a lot of opportunity and a lot of room to go as well.
I'll just add on a more ideological level. I think that the products that win are, people are going to gravitate to the best user experiences and the products that are the easiest to use. And I think we've crossed the point where people have such a negative perception on crypto, or that's a hurdle to get over, as long as the product is easy to use. So, regardless of the industry or the use case, I think if we can abstract the crypto out of it and take away that learning gap in terms of onboarding to a new product, those are the products that are going to win.
Fred, how are your teams organized to advocate for the customer?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we work really closely, products being the we, with analytics and research as well. So analytics is split up into product analytics in terms of how users are interacting with the app and using the app, and ops analytics in terms of are we selling through drops, what type of people are buying drops, those types of things. Research is, part user research of sending out feedback or surveys and getting feedback directly from one-on-one interviews with users, but also something that's pretty new to DraftKings at least is this concept of community. With Rainmakers, we launched a Discord. We now have multiple community managers. So typically, when there's a bug in our sportsbook product or our fantasy product, people either create a CX ticket or we send out a survey on a bi-weekly basis and we find out about it a week or two later. Now, if we ship a bug, we're finding out about it instantly from Discord, and our community managers are telling us right away. So it's that rapid feedback loop that's really different with this concept of community.
I'll add just two things to it. I think one thing that we don't do a good job of in crypto is like customer support. It's actually a very normal thing in Web 2 to have a customer support team, so exactly to your point. I think that's one of the key things you have to have in a team. The other one I would add is legal. I actually, back when I was in Visa and even at Portal today too, like legal is actually front and center as part of the product development process. Just because, as we all know, like regulatory is key. And I'm not, I think there's like a really important place for, for regulation and for folks like that to get involved. And I think in order to really build the most effective products, bringing the legal team up as a product manager also. I actually have our legal team look through our entire architecture, walk them through it step by step. Even if it's too technical, sometimes I force my legal team to actually understand it also. Because if they're armed with that information, then they can also better serve you and protect you as you continue to grow and scale out your business also. So those are the two things I would just add quickly as part of like organizing your team around crypto too.
Along with that, would you say that the voice of the customer then belongs to one individual team, or is there someone in the room that's advocating for what you're hearing online and I guess the vision for the way you want the customer to feel and the experience that you want them to have? I'm curious because you've been inside such a big organization at Visa and now also running a startup.
Yeah, I think it's 100% a team job. I think voice of the customer has to be top of mind for everyone. I think there's obviously a lot of conflicting I think priorities, resource constraints, and sometimes it's easy to say, oh, we'll take the shortcut because it's easier from a development perspective, but it's going to add X amount of friction for the user. I think those are the interesting questions that you kind of constantly have to make a trade-off on of, do you take the hit initially so that you can, launch your product or, go to market quickly? So I think that's where the voice of the customer becomes really important of like, what is your goal? What are you trying to solve for? And if it's to have the best user experience, then that extra week of development is actually necessary. And so it just goes back to like having the voice of the customer, but also the goal that you guys are trying to achieve as well. If it's great developer experience and like you're kind of pushing the customer experience over to your customers, then I think it's a different ballgame. So it just comes down to priority, but also making sure it's top of mind for the entire team too.
One thing I'll add to that, a potential trade-off of this rapid feedback from Discord and social channels is there's a lot more noise and you have to sift through the noise to find the signal. Usually the happiest users are the quietest users. So, if you go into our Discord, there's a lot of chatter from people who are new or not as active users. And, you have to take all that noisy feedback and make sure that you're also focusing on the people who are really using your product on a daily basis and not as vocal.
We have a fun thing at Eco in our Discord. We made this this channel where community members have to kind of check in every day and say a different phrase every day. It's this whole complicated thing. And people get a streak and they get rewarded for having this streak of staying in there, which is super fun. But unintentional side effect of that is that our team got really competitive about that. And so now everyone checks in and does this thing every day and is competitive about their streaks of how long they're checking in every day. But that then puts everyone in Discord every single day. And once you're in there, it's really hard to not like check on what else is going on. And we found it's amazing for, voice of the customer. Like everyone's the voice of the customer. People are in there and you feel the accountability of what the community is asking for when they're demanding things or saying something's broken, and you're the person who is actually responsible for that thing. And so we found it really helpful to have everyone in the mix on that and not just one person.
These new customers that are exploring crypto with you, do they behave the way you thought they would? Or have you had to make certain concessions to bring them along with you as they're exploring different features or needing different things from the team?
I mean, I can say just personally, having built a Web 2 consumer product before, and I'm sure many of you in this room have as well, users are really hard. Like they do stupid things all the time or misunderstand the product or whatever it is. It's really hard. And then you layer this crypto thing on top and it gets even harder. So I think there's this like ideal of, just build it the way Web 2 works and like everyone's gonna get it and it's gonna be perfectly fine. Ask anyone who works at a Web 2 company, they will tell you that is not the case. Like they build a Web 2 product and users have a tough time with it. And so when you layer on any additional level of complexity, it gets even harder. We do our best in Beam to abstract as much of that away as possible, but there's inevitably still some stuff at the fringes that is just a little bit new. Even if it's not crypto, it's a slightly different flow or slightly different experience or something like that. And you just have to like really iterate on how you're messaging to these people and test it and get the feedback and test it and get the feedback. And to the point made, I mean, happy customers are usually pretty quiet about it. Unhappy customers are very loud, and so you also have to balance that and get the feedback from everyone.
I'll just add quickly that changing behavior is also really difficult too. There's a lot of users that are either accustomed to one way of interacting with crypto or an application. Like crypto natives like us, we're very comfortable with maybe MetaMask and self-custody, and we're probably not going to deviate away from that. But as you start to like move and ask more of the other types of consumers, and as you start to go into the adoption curve of like, hey, you have to memorize this thing, and by the way, if you lose it, all of your stuff is gone. That's like a pretty scary user experience and behavior change. And so I think something as little as that is that something we've kind of assumed and expected that that's actually going to help us adopt folks, but really is not the case at all. And so I think there's the early adopters that will change behavior and will start to gravitate towards it, but we just can't have that expectation for the rest of the users also, and starting to meet them where they are as well.
So is it fair to say then, as you're building out the product roadmap, are you thinking about building habits early on from like the first time that they're experiencing the product, or is it more about kind of winning their trust and getting them comfortable with the technology and then building those habits later? Like what's best in class practices here?
I mean, I'll say a couple things, and then I would love to hear like your view on it too, especially with the new Beam launch as well. But I think what I've learned, and it's probably similar learnings from what you had, is abstracting the technology is actually really important. Users just want to go through a quick flow. They have very little patience. When they're going through the onboarding, they want to get it done is like in 30 seconds or less. And even if the loading screen goes for like longer than 20 seconds, they might just like forget about it and then just drop off completely after two. And so being like super performant, responsive, going through the onboarding funnel very quickly, just like table stakes stuff is actually just as important in Web3 as it was in Web 2 also. So I think it's going to come down to abstracting away the technology as fast as possible. And then just instilling trust and credibility and comfort every step of the way also, where it just feels like, cool, I went through it, I'm able to now send my money globally, I'm able to interact with the protocol pretty quickly also, I'm able to on-ramp from fiat to crypto fairly quickly also. So I think those are the things that are going to continue to exist in Web3 as we continue to build products also.
Yeah, I would also just add that you have to give people an opportunity to have some sort of good experience very quickly, because otherwise they'll churn immediately. And I think there's a lot of products in Web3 that are really cool products, but you get into it and you can't do anything immediately. Unless you've got something you already want to do inside that product, there's no immediate experience. And Web2 products have gotten really good at doing that, where like as soon as you get in, lowest friction thing, you have some moment of delight or moment of doing something, and that's really important, because otherwise people will just walk away.
Yeah, we've seen too many wallets or experiences where you sign up and you get that handle and you're so excited that it has your name on it. And then 6 months later, you're like, oh, I have this thing, I forgot, because you haven't been able to do anything in that app for half of a year. Okay, I'm getting the wrap up signal. So I have a question. Is it going to be a killer app that makes crypto ubiquitous, or is it going to be more of like a rising tide where we just sort of have the technology everywhere?
I'll go maybe. I think it's a rising tide. I think what's beautiful about crypto and blockchain is that there's so many different types of use cases. You have gaming, you have NFTs, you have fantasy sports, you have payments. You have all these sorts of different applications and protocols out there. So I don't think there's going to be one killer app. I think it's going to be a series of use cases that continue to bubble and like rise the entire ecosystem up. And I think they're all going to do that in their own specific way. Some of them may feel more like Web 2y, and like that's fine. It's going to enable money movement globally. Some of them are going to be very deep and require to bridge and do all these sorts of crazy stuff also. So I think it's going to be a mixture of both, and I think all that in combination is actually going to help, I think, drive the ecosystem further too.
I'll say for our market in particular with NFTs, 18 months ago the question was, is there going to be one NFT marketplace to rule them all, or is it going to be multiple? And I think what we've seen is now there are not only many NFT marketplaces, but from a gaming perspective, you're seeing the game builders build marketplaces into the game. So you can shop and play in one location without needing to go all across the decentralized web. So I think we'll start to see more builders building out a full suite of capabilities, so you don't have to depend on external marketplaces or external capabilities.
And I'll say I think it's a little bit of both, a little bit of killer app, a little bit of rising tide, but at the end of the day, I think we should probably stop. I mean, I love the camaraderie of this space and all of that, but I think it's helpful to actually kind of stop thinking about what is going to make crypto win, and instead just think about what products can I build with the technology that exists today, including this technology that we call crypto that does these things, and build those products, and naturally things will hit, things will work, and an industry will arise. But again, the internet analogy is overused, but I think it stands. I don't know that it's particularly useful to have said 20 years ago or 25 years ago, 30 years ago, what is going to make the internet win. The more interesting question is, wow, we've got this thing that can send information instantly anywhere around the world. What product can I build with that? And in so doing, the internet flourished. And that frame, I think, is just more helpful than let's all try to make this base technology win at the end of the day.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Super interesting stuff. We'll be hanging around if anybody has questions. So thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, panelists.